and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Monday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. Anthony Hartwig with you today. No, we promised you Ty Bartell, but he's actually on the job in Austin Town Fitch, covering their signing day. A lot of athletes for a couple of different sports signing today at Fitch to continue their academic and athletic careers. He'll have interviews, he'll have pictures, we'll have stories, and all that more. So Ty is on the job working for us down in Austin Town. And it is me, myself, and I on this Monday afternoon. And we have a lot to recap for you. There was playoff football over the weekend. There was an all-star volleyball game. We're going to recap all that. And then we are also going to continue our basketball previews today. We're going to let you hear from two coaches that have pre-recorded interviews that Ty Bartell did last week that are going to be great coaches to listen to. Sarah Hamilton from Salem and Bernard Scott from Ursuline, both of those coaches on the girls' side of their programs. We're going to play them. We have less than a week until the start of the season. Girls basketball kicks off on Friday, and then boys basketball will be started the next week. So we are right there. We're right on the edge of winter sports, and we're going to continue previewing the seasons all week as we continue to hear from great coaches around the area. But we are going to start with our recap of the weekend. So rewind your mind back to Friday night, because playoffs started with a bang, and it started with South Range getting the dominant 34-6 win over Cardinal Mooney. This was one of the most anticipated games of the playoffs because it was talked about for a long time what would happen if South Range met Mooney. And on this particular night, it was definitely the Raiders that put their best foot forward. Do want to give a little caveat. Watching that game, I think South Range that night was the better team. I think they proved that. But there is the reality that there were a lot of injuries. Not only did Cardinal Mooney come in banged up, but through the game, a couple more injuries took place that really hurt Mooney and really kind of took them out of their rhythm, so that is definitely a reality that has to be said. That being said, does not take away from South Range at all. Like I said, I think injuries or not, you watch that game, you realize that especially on that night, South Range was the better football team. They were more, the more disciplined team. They executed a little bit better. They took advantage of every little mistake Mooney made, whether it be, not capitalizing on an opportunity on offense and giving the ball back to South Range, or maybe a missed opportunity on defense to make a tackle but not be in the right gap, blown coverages. It seemed like every little thing that Mooney did wrong, South Range was there to kick the door down. And that's what good teams do. They take advantage of other teams' mistakes. That is what South Range did. And when you watched it, it was the Billy Skirpack. He did what he always does. He found Shane Lindstrom plenty of times. There was just an offensive output that was, kind of ho-hum for South Range, what you expect. But what did I say on Friday with Ty? Remember that the identity of this team, this year especially, more than years past, and they've always had a great offense, but this year their defense just looks different. And I think this year South Range is going to be defined by their defense and what they've been able to do on defense. Cardinal Mooney just didn't have an answer for anything that South Range was putting. They couldn't run the ball too well. They weren't getting pushed on the line of scrimmage. South Range's defense, I think this year more than maybe the last 2 years where we saw South Range put together really good seasons. This year, they're even more so defined by their defensive effort and what they're able to do on defense. Because look at these teams that are coming up against South Range that really have found scoring success in the past, does not be able to find much of that scoring here against the Raiders. This defense is unreal. Going to go into the comment section. Hold on. There it is. Go Raiders from the comments section. Yeah, when you look at this game too, it was one of those ones where it felt like a statement game a little bit. The new guys in town that want to say they're the dominant team in the area. You do that by beating a perennial program and a program that has such a winning tradition. You beat them, and maybe a lot of people came in thinking that this would be a little bit too much of a task for South Range. Obviously, you look at the lines that the boys in the Power Hour used, South Range was favored. But I think there were still some people in this Youngstown area that kind of looked at this game like, it's Mooney. They've won state championships. They've been, when you say Youngstown and you say Youngstown high school football, Mooney is the program that you think about, and maybe that's the winds are changing. Who knows? Obviously, congratulations to Mooney on a great season. Ashton O'Brien had a great year, and they got 2 upset victories just to get to that point. They proved that they belonged in the playoffs, and they proved that they were a really, really good football team. It just wasn't their night, and they ran into a buzzsaw, and they made a couple of mistakes. And like I said, South Range is the type of team that will take advantage of every little crack in that door that you leave open. And they kicked it down with authority, and they get the 34-6 win. A little bit less competitive than I thought it'd be. I was hoping for a good game. I think everyone was hoping that this would end up being a really competitive, hyped up game, but South Range obviously had other plans. They advanced to the regional final. When you look at this next matchup, which is something that we'll be talking about really all week on YSN, as we have no other sports until Friday, because Friday is obviously the tip off of the basketball season with a couple of basketball games and then playoff football. But when you look at it, this matchup, it was an upset a little bit. It was a 3 seed beating the 2 seed on the other end of the region. Perry gets to win over Garraway, but you look at the way Perry did it. A pick six, a couple of interceptions. Their defense really kind of stepped up and took the ball away. And nothing against Perry, but when teams win like that, there's a little bit of, in my mind going, well, can you do that again? Can you rely on the non-offensive touchdowns again? Like, how many times do you get a pick six in the playoffs? Is that going to happen 2 weeks in a row? Can your offense put together drives? I don't know. I think Perry, definitely a great team. This is a Perry team that pushed West Branch in the regional semifinals last year in Division 4. So they're used to high caliber football. They're coming down from Division 4. They're a big Division 5 team as far as numbers go. But I wonder if they can kind of pull off some of the stuff that happened to culminate that upset, if they can do that again against South Range. Everyone been talking all region that South Range and Garraway were on a collision course, and they were excited about it when they looked at last year. They looked at the way that game went. But I said at the start of the season, when the divisions came out, I said, you got to watch out for Perry. They're coming from Division 4. They were in the regional semifinals last year, gave West Branch a really good game. You got to watch out for the Perry Pirates, and here we are. They make it to the regional finals, and they will be South Range's opponent on Friday. The destination for that game has been announced. They will play in Berkshire. And Berkshire, I guess I should say, I think they like it pronounced Berkshire, not a long I there. Brand new football field down there in Burton. It is actually so brand new that the Badgers did not play an official home game until week 6 of the football season. So this field has only been really active for football. I think soccer started a little bit earlier, but hasn't been active for football since week 6. So that's we're in week 14 now, right? So that's 8 weeks. It's been active as a football field. So you can say christening this field as a playoff spot. And obviously Berkshire put a lot of money into it, so they hope that it's a playoff spot for a long time to come. It's a beautiful field, and it's going to be showcased on Friday night as South Range plays Perry. And a lot of times with these playoffs locations, it's like, oh man, this isn't really equal. This is a neutral. But you look at it, it's maybe 55, maybe an hour away from South Range, and then maybe 40 minutes from Perry. So it's a pretty dead on right in the middle. So I think for this one, when you're talking about a true neutral site, you couldn't ask for too much better as a place that's right in the middle of South Range and Perry and a brand new football stadium. It's going to be a fun spot to be on Friday night. We go into the other game that was on Friday. Remember, we had 2 games on Friday, 3 on Saturday. It was Canfield and Ursuline meeting up 33-25. Canfield imposes themselves and gets the win. And when you look at it, I just think Canfield, watching the whole game, and Brock Lowry said this after the game with Mike Ackelson. Even it did get close, and Ursuline made a last kind of push. I just felt like the whole game I was watching, I said, Canfield's just a more physical team. They're pushing Ursuline around on the line of scrimmage. Ursuline couldn't get too much of their running game going. They tried to get Christian Lynch going time and time again. It wouldn't work. They just couldn't get him going. They tried to get Bernie going a little bit. Their damage really came in the passing game. Erickson did a really good job. He had a couple of design quarterback runs. That is how you slow down an offensive line. I mean, a defensive line that is kind of pushing the line of scrimmage. You do those quarterback draws to take advantage of their aggressiveness. So he got a couple of big touchdown runs that were good, but their traditional run game for Ursuline just wasn't working, and I think that's a big part of their offense that a lot of people don't talk about how impressive it is and how important it is for their flow. Obviously, Christian Lynch won Offensive Player of the Year, so we all know how good of a player he is. But I think a lot of people, when they talk about Ursuline's offense, they talk about they're going to spread you out, they're going to use your athleticism. But it all starts with their run game. If they can't establish that, then people are just going to play deep and say, okay, your athleticism doesn't really mean much because we're in this two shell defense with 2 deep safeties, and our line of scrimmage can be handled with just our defensive line, maybe 1 extra linebacker back there. If you can't win that battle up front and you don't make other teams bring safeties closer, then that athleticism really it gets equaled out. Canfield is up for the task. Their secondary did a really commendable job against a really good receiving core for Ursuline. And it was a hands down really good, impressive performance by Canfield. Brock Lowry did what Brock Lowry always does, which is just find ways to make plays. Mike Ackelson called him Houdini because there were a couple of plays in that game where it was like he's down, right? He's got to be down, and then all of a sudden you see like some bodies culminate, and then like here comes Brock Lowry just shooting out of the pile with the ball running down the field. It was one of those things you watch, and it was just like he must want it just a little bit more. I think there's a little bit extra in Brock Lowry's tank. I think he realizes this is his last go around, and he's just putting that extra umph. And that's how you get out of those tackles, right? That little bit extra that you have in the tank. And he had just, a lot of talk in the NFL this week about MVP performances. He had an MVP type performance last night. If the MVP was given like after the state championship, that was one of the ones where you go, okay, Brock Lowry is legitimate. He's for real. Doing that to a really big Ursuline team, nothing phased him, and now he and Canfield gets a rematch with Chardon, and Chardon did not look overly impressive in their regional semifinal against the Kinston team that came in looking for an upset. They did not score an offensive touchdown. They won 10-7, so Chardon will be the team that Canfield sees, but they did not score an offensive touchdown. They were down 7-3 at halftime. Came out of the half and got a kickoff return for a touchdown to go up 10-7, and that was the end. That was the final score, 10-7. They get the win over Kinston. But I'll tell you what, your offense cannot stall against Canfield. They'll find ways to score. You might slow them down, but I highly doubt 10 points will be enough to beat this Canfield team the way they're playing. So we'll see how it all squares out. Obviously, Kinston was a team coming on with their hair on fire, a lot of momentum. Their defense brought it. And I think we were all kind of, there was a mixed bag because some people want that rematch with Canfield and Chardon to see him again. But I think some people were like, let's just not even have to worry about Chardon. Let's have Kinston upset him. either way, the regional final is going to be tough. But there is just something like, man, let's just not even have to worry about Chardon again. But they do. And Chardon is in that regional final. That game will be played on Friday. And that's going to be a good regional final rematch. What, I think 3 years in a row now, those two teams have played in the regional final. Chardon is the 3-time state champion, trying to make it 4. That'll be a storyline. But I think, look at this season and looking at it, maybe Chardon a little bit, just a tick off the beat from last year's Chardon team. Just a tick. So maybe Canfield's door is open a little bit. Maybe this is their year. We definitely hope so. That game will be in Ravenna on Friday, and it's going to be a fun one on that blue turf field in Ravenna, the host of the Ravens, the Ravenna Ravens, on the blue turf that just hosted another game this week. So West Branch, they hosted the West Branch Buckle game, which we're going to talk about next, because West Branch was able to escape a late rally against the Buckle Griffins, 41-33. They get the win. And I want to just fast forward to the end of this game, right? Because this is when the craziness started to happen. This is when you kind of go, oh man, this got interesting, way more interesting than we thought it'd be. So here's the scenario. West Branch up 41-31 late in the game. It's like 2 minutes left. West Branch is in a punt, and you get this punt off. Buckle has to start the drive at the 20. They have to score twice in 2 minutes. Doesn't look good for Buckle, right, if you get this punt off. But something crazy happened, right? So West Branch, the snap goes over the punter's head, rolls into the end zone. West Branch wisely jumps on it and takes the safety instead of the touchdown. So the 2 points give Buckle the 8-point deficit. So it's 41-33 now. But remember, with the safety, they get the ball right back on the free kick. Free kick return puts them, I think, at like the 40, their own 40. So they have good field position. They go right down a couple of plays. They're at the 20-yard line. And this is it. Now, this is the interesting thing. They had a minute left, and I believe Buckle had one timeout left. So there's like a minute and a timeout. And instead of still trying to work the field, which I think with that time frame, with that clock management, you still have the whole field to work with, right? You can go underneath, catch a ball for a first down, get up, spike it. You still have the whole field. But Buckle decided that they wanted to take 3-4 shots to the end zone. So incomplete. It's 4th and 10 at the 20. And now they go for the end zone again. And when I say this was as close as you can get to a touchdown, that would have been not a game-tying touchdown, but would have put you with a chance at a 2-point conversion. Sorry, my dog is freaking out. But a 2-point conversion, tie it. This guy, I saw the freeze frame from a camera angle that was right next to the end zone. He had maybe the front half of his foot was over the line out of bounds when he caught the ball. It was a great catch. He just had that top of his foot out of bounds for the incomplete catch, and that obviously gave West Branch the win. But props to the refereeing crew. I know a lot of people give referees a lot of hate and a lot of bad vibes, but man, to make that perfect call at that situation when it was so close, it was so close. Like I said, hard to make bang play, and he was right on top of it. Made the right call in that situation with that much on the line in the playoffs. That's amazing. Not just because he made the right call, but because he wasn't pursued by the energy of the stadium. Obviously Buckle fans are going nuts, and sometimes referees at high school level can get a little bit, lost in that and say touchdown because it's just in the energy. But no, this was the right call. He was right on it. He made it quickly. There was no conversation. He did the out of bounds signal there, and that was how that game ended. And man, what a fight! Buckle came back, made it interesting, but West Branch really controlled the game for the most part, especially the second half. This got wacky at the end, and West Branch was able to survive. 41-33. When you look at who they play next, it's actually the next game we're going to talk about, because it is the Jefferson Falcons coming out of that game against Canton South. And this is a game that I think a lot of people, and even Pat Sarter, and the voice of the Falcons, said he was worried about, because Canton South looked really impressive in their 2 playoff wins to get to this point. Salem 28-21, they hold that Quakers offense to 21 points. And then on the flip side, they beat Beaver Local in a straight up shootout the week before after that. I said the week after Salem. So they get the straight up shootout with Beaver Local, win that game. And so you kind of come into this game thinking, okay, Canton South can beat you with their defense, but they also can get into a offensive shootout if they have to. So that's a scary team that can win both ways. But Jefferson said, we're going to put our best foot forward and we're going to win with an offense that literally you cannot stop. Jefferson scored on every possession they had except for the final one where they need the clock out. So the only possession they didn't score was their victory formation knee down. And Grant Hitchcock, we've been talking about him all year on YSN. He's one of the ones that we praise so much as a leader and as a quarterback and as a wide receiver and as a running back. Does whatever you need for this team. 6 touchdowns on the ground for Grant Hitchcock. Had 191 yards rushing. He only needed to pass the ball 5 times because that's how good this Jefferson team ran the ball. They controlled the clock. They went on multiple 8+ minute drives. They kept Canton South's offense off the field, and they just executed the game plan absolutely perfectly. Jefferson looked at their best. I think that was the best game they played all season. We've had every game they've played on YSN. We have not missed a game, and they've definitely looked impressive, especially the first 3 weeks. I think that was the best game that Jefferson has played all year, especially on the offensive side, running the ball, controlling the clock, controlling the line of scrimmage. If they play like that, then this is going to be a heck of a matchup between West Branch and Jefferson, because the one way you can beat Drew DeShields, and probably the only way you can beat Drew DeShields, is if you keep him on the sideline. Well, I should say keep him off the offensive side of the field, because if he only gets 6 possessions, then maybe he can't hurt you as much. So Jefferson did a really good job at that, controlling the clock. That's probably going to be the game plan against West Branch. It's probably everyone's game plan against West Branch. I mean, good luck. But everyone's game plan is, let's slow the game down and try to keep Drew DeShields off the field as much as possible. That's what Jefferson's going to have to do to win this game on Friday. But they did it, like I said, to perfection on Friday night to get the victory over Canton South. So they advanced to the Division IV regional final. How many people had West Branch and Jefferson fighting for a chance to go to state on the preseason bingo poll? If you had it, congratulations to you. But I'm gonna say that a lot of people probably didn't have that one marked out on their bingo card. West Branch versus Jefferson will be at Niles on Friday night, and that should be a fun matchup to call. And you know what's the greatest thing about that matchup? It is YSN versus YSN. So YSN is guaranteed a player in the state semifinal in Division 4. That's the way it worked out. We're so happy about that. That means that no matter what we're going to be celebrating on Friday, we're going to have someone go to that state semifinal next week and playing in week 15. And that's going to be that's what it's all about. That's what we love, watching these kids succeed. So Friday night at Niles, West Branch versus Jefferson. And now we've come to the last football game of the night. It was Warren JFK, and boy, oh boy, their defense put on a clinic. They call it the Blue Storm. The headline of the story afterwards was a perfect storm, and that's what it was. Warren JFK set the tone in this game. 2 defensive touchdowns. So before their offense even gets to climb on the end zone, they're up 14-0. They held this Southern offense to, I think, 213 total yards all night on 53 plays. Southern could not move the ball. They couldn't score. It was obviously a shutout. JFK's defense maybe played the best game they played in the playoffs too. I mean, obviously they had to play really well against Springfield the week before, holding the Tigers to 6 points while their offense figured things out 13-6. But this one was just, I mean, Southern came in averaging almost 40 points a game, 39.5 points per. The Southern Indians were averaging coming into this game. And JFK just said, no, you're not scoring. Not only are you not scoring your average, you're not scoring at all. Like, This defense is something to be contended with. They are fast, they are physical, they are ball hawks. Obviously, they scored twice. They know how to turn you over. They take advantage of every little mistake you make. This is a Warren JFK defense that can win them games. And what's the old cliche in every sport? It seems like defense wins championships, offense sells tickets. Well, JFK has an offense that can score, and they have an offense that can move the ball, but they have a defense that will shut you down at the end of the day. So, if defense wins championships, then this team is staring down the barrel of a championship defense. I'll tell you that much right now. They do a tremendous job on defense. Their next opponent is going to be Danville. Danville was able to beat Lucas in comeback fashion. They were down 20-0 against the Cubs. They were still able to come back and win. Danville was the higher seed, so they'll play Warren JFK on Friday. In that game, hold on, I'm going to grab the location real quick. That game will be in New Philadelphia. So JFK versus Danville in New Philadelphia on Saturday. Remember, JFK and West Branch Jefferson both will play on Saturday. South Range and Canfield will both play on Friday, so that'll be split 2-2. 2 games on Friday, 2 games on Saturday. We just got word that these games will be audio only because Spectrum has picked them up from the OHSAA as the regional final games they want to feature. So they will be audio only on YSN's side, but because of that, they'll be free. They will not be pay-per-view. So that'll be something to look forward to on Friday night and Saturday as we talk more and more about these next matchups as the week goes on. Last thing I want to talk about before we hit a break and then go into some basketball coaches previews is the All-Star game on Saturday night that went off so great in my perspective. I think everyone at YSN agrees that it was just an absolute perfect night. One, the volleyball was excellent. These players showed up. We gave them about an hour before the game to kind of work with their team. They both went into separate gyms, Crestviews Middle School gym and Crestviews High School gym, and just worked for about an hour with each other. They came out and they looked like they'd been playing together all season long. It was really incredible to see them just kind of culminate and come together. I know a lot of them know each other anyway from JO volleyball. There were some players that have played with each other, been set by that person before, so that kind of went into it. But then I was talking to Ty. I was like, can you imagine if we gave this team like a day before the game to practice, how good this volleyball would have been? It was already great. Like if you give them a day and it's just seamless, there are no mistakes, no miscommunications at all, that would have been just incredible. But no, man, great game, great volleyball. Everyone shined. I like seeing the players that were kind of under the radar all season come out and show that they belong in this group of players that always get talked about. I like Taylor Cope coming up and being matched up against Lauren Pallone, getting a couple of blocks on the outside. I liked Zoe Reed from Salem. Obviously, Salem struggled a little bit this season, but she kind of made her name known. She had a great game. Lexi Muck from Liberty, who is still up for Barrett Brothers Big Dog of the Year up until midnight tonight against Sarah Forsyth. She kind of made her presence known, and she's a great volleyball player. I think Riley Ellsworth from Grand Valley really kind of stood out as a great setter and a great defensive player for Grand Valley. Obviously, your superstars absolutely stood out. Jocelyn Jordan, Abby Emch, Grace Hour, Tara Lytle, Maggie Bavlansky, Lauren Pallone, Brie Littell. They all did what everyone expects them to do if they're in an all-star game, which is show up and show out. But it was nice to see the players that kind of were the best players on their team come in and say, I belong here and I'm going to make plays with this group of players and I am going to, make my name known. Eliza Baker had an ace to end one of the sets for Coach Guthrie from Lisbon. So players like that maybe don't get talked about as much as they should, giving us reasons to talk about them, shining in an all-star kind of atmosphere. That was kind of one of my favorite parts of the day. And then it all ends with what the whole theme of every all-star game that we put on is, and that's raising money for a great cause. And we had $2,000 raised for Winnie's Warriors on the night. That gym was packed. Everyone kind of proved, and this is what I said in the broadcast, they proved that this community cares about volleyball. Like volleyball will be supported in the area if you bring the talent. If you bring volleyball that people want to watch, people will show up. So if anyone kind of says that no one cares about volleyball, all you have to do is go in there and look at that Crestview gym. And I would argue that like there will be some basketball crowds this year that don't get as big as that volleyball crowd did this time around. It wasn't sold out, but most of that bottom level of Crestview was filled, and then there was some leaking up into the up into the mezzanine. It was a great crowd, great energy, great night all around. Want to thank everybody that was a part of that. I want to thank the Crestview staff for giving us everything we need. Crestview High School for hosting. I want to thank our two volunteer coaches and Coach Alyssa Birch and Coach Heather Guthrie for volunteering their time on a Saturday night to come and coach those players and give them all they had. They had lineups ready. They had everything planned out. With their organization, that made that game go off without a hitch from the X's and O's standpoint. And obviously, thank you to all the players that came out and had the great attitude and played great and put on a great show. So All-Star game went super, super well, and we couldn't be more proud to close the book on volleyball with a game like that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll play an interview with Sarah Hamilton from Salem Girls Basketball next on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. As promised, here is a conversation with the head coach of the Salem girls basketball team, Sarah Hamilton, and with Ty Bartell on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Welcome in, everybody. Ty Bartell, and with another edition of Coach's Corner. This time we go into that EBC conference, home of the Salem Lady Quakers. Coach Sarah Hamilton on joining us today. Coach, how we doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us today. I mean, Coach, let's first and foremost start with this team a year ago. I mean, the best defensive team we've seen in Salem basketball history, and that dates back to even when you were playing on the Salem Lady Quakers. How proud of last year's work, I should say, were you of those kids? And how do you guys move forward going forward? And what is the team looking like going into this season?
I mean, unbelievably proud of those kids. I knew they were able to accomplish some pretty special things, but you are what you emphasize. And last year it was defense, defense, defense. And we had it in our mind to set the defensive record that year. And we set out and we accomplished that goal. And along the way, we did some pretty special things in that season. So it really set the bar. It turned the corner for Salem basketball. And we're going to look forward to continuing that success. I've got a great group coming back. We graduated 5 seniors, but the group that I have, I mean, are just beyond impressive. You know, they are kind of what coaches dream of. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I apologize about that. Let's take a look at some of the names that we're going to have on this season. Who are the big ones that you're going to rely on to kind of shoulder the leadership of this year? And what are some new ones we're going to have to get accustomed to over there in Salem?
Well, we're not going to be as deep as we were last year, but we have a lot of quality in what we have. You're going to see Abby Davidson. You've probably seen her for, this is going on 4 years now, 4-year starter. She's just what the benchmark for where we set our level of play at and dedication. And she just is so impressive to watch. So she's going to be a huge factor. Cami Rome, also known as SWATzilla, she has been doing some great things on the perimeter, inside. You know, she can play any position. And then Riley Hutton from last year as well. Her speed, her consistency, and her outside shooting is beyond impressive. But a couple players that you'll see this year that you saw a lot of supporting roles last year, Zoe Reed. She's going to be a big inside for us. She brings so much positive energy. I'm sure you saw her on the volleyball court. Just an all-around athlete. We also have Lauren Barton, Kaylee Carlisle, who are juniors as well, with Riley Flickinger. And they just offered the team just a spark. Whatever we asked them to do, they're doing it. So it's just really nice. And then one more that's probably new to everyone is our freshman, Maddie Andre. She's been doing a phenomenal job. I'm just really impressed with her vocal leadership, her fearless mentality when it comes to taking the court. So she's another one to look out for.
You guys have a great set of characters, it seems like, coming back to, and we always know SWATzilla was a human highlight reel for you guys last year. What were the challenges in trying to get this team to be as proficient defensively as they were a year ago? We know the sport of basketball is always changing, so when the team you were playing on, it was a different game offensively, and it's a different game offensively than it was just 2 or 3 years ago. What were the challenges in being able to be as proficient defensively as you guys were a year ago?
We just have to find a new identity. We're not the same team. We don't have the depth to be able to run the girls like crazy, but we still have that hard-nosed, tough defense. So it's just going to look a little bit different. We've got to move some pieces around. But the scrimmages that we've had so far, great, impressive defensive effort. I think that our strength this year is going to be our speed. So we're going to really use that to our advantage, especially on the defensive end. So I'm looking forward to that.
In the schedule you guys crafted, obviously the EBC is always tough. Marlington, West Branch, they highlight a very talented conference as well. But what are some of these non-conference games that you're particularly excited for and challenging these girls for ahead of a tournament run, hopefully a deep one again?
I'll tell you what, Tyler, we don't have a day off. Our schedule is a gauntlet. I mean this truly and honestly. It's probably the toughest schedule we've ever put together in Salem history. We start with Howlands, we've got Mooney, we've got Poland, we've got Canfield, we've got Fitch, we've got Boardman, and then we're jumping on to some new ones. You know, we've got Notre Dame Cathedral Latin, we've got West Geauga. We'll see Maslin Jackson again, who went to state in D1. So many tough opponents that we have. We're going to be battle tested and ready to go come tournament time. But we're going to have to really manage going through the ups and downs of playing such tough competition all season long.
I mean, tough competition indeed. You guys are going to be tested night in and a night out. But I know you as a former athlete and as a coach, and I know all your athletes, you taste that success. You're always hungry for more. You want to take that next step. And there's challenges. Every team's different year in and year out. You always got to suffer those challenges and kind of battle your way through them throughout the course of a season. But in saying that, what needs to be done with this team, or what are the check marks you kind of need to say or put on this team for you guys to take that next step and go make another deep tournament run, or potentially take that next step in the tournament?
I emphasized this a lot last year, but we need to stay humble and we need to stay hungry. Just because we saw some success last year, a lot of times that breeds a lot of like, well, we want to get to state this year. We want to do this. We want to do that. And right now, all we need to be focused on is winning game 1 against Howland. Just set those small goals, and those small goals become bigger goals. Because if you lose sight on what's right in front of you, a lot of times upsets can happen. So we really want to make sure, we're present where our feet are, be in the moment each and every day, and just really focus on the task at hand and not get ahead of ourselves.
You're back another season, and it seems like that love for Salem has never wavered throughout all the years you've been able to come back and bless the Quakers with your presence. But I'm curious, going back, where that coaching voice was established and who kind of helped you craft that coaching voice and coaching mentality. I kind of have a feeling I'm gonna be able to guess it, but why don't you tell me some of the big coaches that helped influence you in your coaching career?
Well, I'm sure Steve Stewart and Roger Ziegler were just massive roles in my life as a father figure, as a coach. They really helped shape who I am. And they were inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, and it was just special to be there and getting to be a part of that moment because they've done so much for me as a player, and they've definitely deserved everything that they've gotten. But, I hear in my head some of the things that they would tell me as a player, or, what they would say coaching alongside of them. And, it's that voice that I like to listen to. And just really guide me. And I'm lucky too to have Coach Spack, who coached me as a player, and he's on staff. And so it just makes for such a nice mentor because I've got so much respect for that man. He is just unbelievable.
When you're trying to indoctrinate new players into the Salem culture and what it means to be a Lady Quaker, what are the things you're looking for in particular? And for those girls that want those minutes on the court, want those starting minutes, what are the things you and your coaching staff are looking for in trying to grant them those?
It's our job to teach them the skill. But I tell them when they come to practice, effort and attitude are 2 non-negotiables. Those are things that they can control. Doesn't take any type of skill, any type of talent. So those are the things that I look for. Are you a good teammate? Are you running in between drills? Are you just the little things? And what's so nice to see is when we talk about culture, coming in 2 years ago and having my own idea of how I wanted things to look like, how I wanted us to interact with each other, and going on my 3rd year, I kind of get a step back and the girls get a lead and say like, hey, no, we got to make sure we're doing this. This is the expectation. So the culture is really run kind of right now, especially through our seniors. They're doing a great job of setting the tone and being great leaders.
I gotta imagine the goal you said that's what you set out for, is you wanted them to be able to kind of take this program as their own, kind of like how you did when you experienced all the success with the Salem team. How proud are you of how it's turned out, and what other work needs to be done for you to get this program culture-wise to where you want it back to where you used to experience Salem girls basketball as?
Well, I'm a firm believer that the best leaders create more leaders. And I'm seeing that in our senior group. They're inspiring the other girls to work harder, to stay after practice, put the extra time in, and just what it takes to be a good teammate. If someone gets knocked down, we're sprinting to help them up. Always communicating, always making sure everyone's taken care of, whether it's rides. I had one girl go out and buy snacks for everyone so they could have, stuff while we're watching film, just taking care of each other. And that's the kind of culture I want to see, in that familial culture. And that's what breeds success, because, they say that talent isn't everything, and that oftentimes culture can beat talent every day. And so that's really what I want to promote, is just a good, solid foundation of culture.
Obviously, you and the girls create that culture. You generate the culture for the specific team, but how important is it for the community to kind of surround that culture, to kind of, I guess, give it its legitimacy? I mean, it already seems like Salem's a hardcore community. Salem West Branch still remains to be one of the most packed house crowds you'll see in a rivalry game. Just talk to me about how important that community is around it and trying to give it that prestige and the culture.
Well, our community is everything to us. And I think that everyone saw kind of a shift in the support that they gave us throughout the basketball season. They saw what the girls were doing. They saw how hard they played. And they came in the stands and they supported us in the community as well, whether it was through sponsorships, sponsoring team dinners, or even just in our tournament run going downtown and seeing, good luck Lady Quakers everywhere. It just made it part of something so special. And it's those moments that you remember going forward as an athlete, that the community support. And so that's really why we make an effort to get out into the community. We do a lot of community events. We go into the elementary schools to read to the K through second graders, just to kind of spark that love of the Salem basketball that, has been remembered for so many years. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
This is going to be a fun team, no doubt, and I already love the culture that you've been able to create over there in Salem. I want to ask a little bit about this Salem-West Branch rivalry, because you had the unique experience of experiencing it as a player and now as a coach. How important are those West Branch games to you as a coach too? Do you get up a little bit for them? I know you as a coach have to keep like that mentality of, but I gotta feel like, but me and everything in that locker room, it probably felt pretty good beating West Branch twice last year.
It's exciting, and it's exciting because of the respect that we have for them. It's not like it's this nasty rivalry.
No,
where
Walt's a great guy too.
Yeah, Walt's amazing, and their girls are a class act. So whenever we get that opportunity to compete with them, and especially win, it's a great feeling because we have such respect for them and what they're doing there. So it's a nice measuring stick for us. And we know that any given day, the game can go either way. So it's just kind of like, if the stars align or not, if we prepared well enough or not. But, it's always such a blast getting ready for those games, some hype music in there. But, at the end of the day, we got to go in with the same mentality that we would against any opponent on our schedule, because oftentimes teams can get too hyped up, psych themselves out. So oftentimes we kind of try to save that hype for after the game if we're celebrating.
All righty, Coach. Before we let you go, we already met the team, but I always like to give a chance to meet the staff too. Sometimes there's staff changes, sometimes you bring back the same one, but either way, I'd like to know the other big names that help out in the Salem girls basketball program.
Well, you will see the same high school staff that we had last year. Talk about a well-oiled machine, and it was just like the players. We each had our own role, and it just worked out so well. So you'll see Coach George Spack, who is just such a pivotal member of the Salem community, and he knows the game, and he's so great with the kids, and the kids just love and absolutely respect him. My former teammate and now my assistant varsity coach, Coach Dreger, Renee Dreger. One of the most special things last year was when we won that district title, her and I embracing, because we had talked about getting back there for years. So that was really special. Coach Bailey, who you guys know quite well, he just does so much for the program as far as fundraising, as far as the youth programs. He employs some of our girls to work those tournaments. So he's just a huge asset. We've got Coach Sierra Day, who was a former player as well. And, she does a great job working with our bigs and really making sure they're getting bigger and stronger. And then our junior high program is really where the success is at. And our youth program is where, we build for the future. And we've got Coach Matt Ziegler, who's principal of the junior high. And he has been a huge part of the coaching community for 20 years. He was a varsity coach. He's coached at every level, and he's bringing such a wealth of knowledge to the program this year alongside of Riley Leiter. So it's just really nice to have such a cohesive group of coaches that are just in it for the right reasons and in it for the kids. And so it's just really nice to have.
Alrighty, Coach Hamilton, I thank you so much for your time and giving us a chance to kind of preview this Salem girls basketball season. You could catch the Lady Quakers for absolutely free this season. Thank you again to all of our wonderful sponsors for making that happen. As the Quakers open up the season with a very tough matchup in the Howland Lady Tigers. Catch Coach Hamilton and all the Lady Quakers this 2022-2023 upcoming season on ysnlive.com. This has been another edition of Coach's Corner.
I made the same mistake. That was Sarah Hamilton with Salem girls basketball being talked to you by Ty Bartell. We're going to go right into Bernard Scott from Ursuline and then get out of here on Running Point.
Welcome in, everybody. Ty Bartell in with another edition of Coach's Corner. This time we go to the north side of Youngstown, home of the Ursuline Fighting Irish girls basketball coach, Bernard Scott. Coach, how are we doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem, Coach. We always love talking to you. And what I really want to talk about is this Ursuline girls basketball team. We talked a little bit off air, and you mentioned to me again, and it slipped my mind, but this was a very young team last year. I thought you guys had a senior or two on the squad. You guys actually had no seniors on the squad last year. Very young team, but it was a team that had a lot of success, made a nice postseason run as well. I'm sure there's a lot you guys want to build from that season. But before we do that, let's get a chance to meet the team, the familiar faces we know, and maybe some new faces that are going to be on this Irish team this year.
Yeah, well, we returned Lily Scott, my daughter. She's a junior this year. Looking for her to have a big year. Also, Elena Smith, who was our top scorer last year, top rebounder, really good player, probably one of the top players in the area. We returned Meredith Gray, who's kind of like our Draymond Green of the team. She does all the dirty work, really high IQ. And then we have Grace Leslie, who started for us a little bit last year. We have Katie, who was a freshman last year, who's a sophomore now. And a new addition right now is Trinity Lamb, who didn't play last year because she's going to end up playing college volleyball. So she really put a lot of time into her volleyball game last year, but decided for her senior year she's going to come out. And then we have the freshman class I'm really excited about. We have Brooklyn Brown, Carly Casey, Brooke O'Palick, Jada Jones, Julie Lee. We have quite a few freshmen that I think are going to help us as well.
Now, schedule-wise, too, just to go through this schedule, I know you guys, smaller conference, so it leaves a lot of open room for you guys to schedule what you want, and I know Ursuline never shies away from competition. I mean, I always like to ask what coaches give their schedule. Most of them say an A, so I know you aren't going to hesitate saying an A, but just let's go through some of these matchups. I mean, you see St. Vincent St. Mary's, you see Salem, you see Girard, you see teams like Mooney on there, which are always competitive. Struthers is going to be very improved. South Range. What about this schedule do you like, and what do you like about this schedule that you think is going to test you guys, and what areas do you think you need tested the most in before a tournament?
Yeah, you know what? Our schedule, our AD does a good job of scheduling quality games. I'm a coach that even when I was at the college level, I always played a tough schedule because I think it prepares you for that postseason run. It's kind of false advertisement if you play teams that you're really that much better than. So we like to play a competitive schedule. You've mentioned St. Vincent, St. Mary. We got Holland on there, Salem, who we didn't get to play last year, but that's a good program. Looking forward to playing them. And always a good game with Mooney and those guys. But I just think the schedule prepares our girls to be ready for the tournament play, especially moving up a division this year. We're usually in Division III, but we usually play a Division I or II schedule anyway. So for me, moving up isn't really a big deal because I feel like we're playing most of those teams during the season anyway.
You look at the schedule, I think it's going to prepare you well. outside of like coaching the Ursuline girls basketball team, though, I mean, you're closely involved with the sport. You got your own basketball academy too. I mean, I know you played yourself, I think, to the college level, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So, I mean, this has always been a huge part of your life. Yes. What keeps you driving with the sport, man? What keeps you coming back? What gives you the love for it to wake up every day and be so directly involved with local basketball?
Well, for me, for one, I love the game. You know, the game has brought me so many opportunities. I've had a great career either playing or coaching. So I love the game, but I also enjoy seeing young players, young athletes get better. I enjoy coaching them and giving them the correct way to play the game, which I think a lot of players are lacking nowadays. But also, I just like to see kids grow. And that's what the big thing with my academy, when kids come to the camps, the clinics, I just want to see them improve. And that's the same thing with Ursuline girls basketball. I thought last year we were young, but we improved as the year went on, made a good run in the tournament there and lost to a good Brookfield team. And this year, I think we're going to be even better. Just to talk about our numbers a little bit, you know, last year we had 16 total players in the program. This year we're up to 24. So we're growing. I think the girls realize that when they come to play at Ursuline, they're going to get quality coaching. They're going to get taught the right way, and they're going to have an opportunity to play good competition. And I think that's good.
And that's always great to see the numbers rising too. We were talking with some other coaches about the challenges that they faced because of the COVID year, because so many girls that were in the middle school ages kind of just weren't interested in basketball during that COVID year, and it kind of created a gap in that. So I guess in saying that too, what do you think needs to be done locally to drive that interest, because you're so closely related with basketball? What do you think it needs to be done to drive that interest at a younger age and get girls and boys more involved with the sport?
Yeah, I think we got to have quality coaches that players enjoy playing for, and parents believe their daughters or sons are learning from. I think the coaching is really important because bad coaching can turn off a young athlete and can turn off parents, you know. So promoting it, also just giving more opportunities. You know, I run a lot of stuff, but I know there's a couple, you know, Dre Day runs some things as well. There's a lot of us out there that I think do it the right way. And I think we got to get more kids involved with us.
You mentioned having Lily on the team too, and I always think that's a unique dynamic, and I always love the story too of you know, parents coaching their sons, coaching their daughters, you know, vice versa. But what I'm curious about too is, do you as a parent ever try to take that time, or do you have to try to like step back or like, you know, put on the coaching face, take it off while you're coaching these games to try to, I guess, appreciate what's also happening on the court, watching your daughter, but also coaching your daughter? How's that dynamic, and is it tough to kind of manage that?
Yeah, you know what? We got off to a rocky start last year. You know, I expect a lot of Lily. You know, she's been around the game a lot, just being with me. And I was a little harder on her last year than I were on the other kids. And I had to back off a little bit on her just to let her play. And like you said, enjoy having the opportunity to coach her. So we ended up coming to a even ground there, and she did well to finish the season. But, you know, it's a great opportunity. Not everyone gets to do it. I enjoy coaching her. She's a great young lady. And, you know, she's really taken a big step this summer in her game. She's put in a lot of work. I think people are going to see her be more consistent this year in her play. And with that being said, that'll help us as a team if she's more consistent.
Coach, you're a big voice in this area. You're one that a lot of young girls and young boys look up to and look to for advice on the sport. So I'm kind of curious where that all came from. What bit of advice was given to you, or what coach had such a big impact on you that wanted you to keep pursuing this and eventually take over that coaching and that mentorship role in the sport of basketball?
Yeah, you know what? Growing up, I had some really good coaches coming from Villa St. Joe's. I had Ted Kwasniak, who did a really good job with us. We had quite a few players that played at the college level coming from there. So, and then once I got to college, you know, I had Stan Joplin. I worked with Coach Mark Elin on the women's side, who gave me my first opportunity to be a college coach. And from there, I just started to really watch people. And I always had a dream of being a head coach at the college level. And, you know, Kate Peterson helped me with that as well, from Cleveland State. So I've had quite a few people. Hard to go through all of them, but there are quite a few that I appreciate that helped me get to where I'm at.
Coach, I want to give you the chance to shout out the rest of your staff too, as well, because I know sometimes staff changes, sometimes they stay the same, but we already know they're always important year in and year out too. So without further ado, I want to give you the chance to introduce the 2022-23 edition of the Irish staff.
Yeah, I have a great staff. You know, Coach Bree has been with me. She was with me last year, but she was with the previous staff as well. She just does a really good job of communicating with the girls. She's a teacher, so she understands how to communicate with them. Coach Doc has been really good for me as well. Coach Doc, I believe, played at Fitch, is in the Hall of Fame, does a good job with the girls on the court. And we've added Coach Anissa this year, who played at Ursuline a few years back, had a great career at Ursuline. She also helps me with my academies a lot. But we brought her on staff this year, and she's doing a good job with the young ladies as well.
I love the energy that I was seeing from your Twitter page too. You were showing that in practice, and you know, you mentioned things that coaches always want to improve on, and I feel like no matter what coach I talk to, they always say we could always bring the energy up higher too. Always bring that support up higher. For someone else's shot than their own. What does that say to you as a coach, and what does it mean to you as a head coach seeing that from your players?
Well, it means a lot because we're built on a we not me standard here. So when I see other players getting excited for someone else's success, I get excited because that means we're about each other, we're about the team, and not about ourselves. And I think the only way we're going to be good, I continue to tell our players this, is that if everyone get on the same page and think more about the we than the me. You know, this isn't about one person. One person can't win a game for us. We're going to have to do it as a team. So it excites me. And I'm a high energy guy. So when I see people getting pumped like that, it just juices me up, you know.
The mental side of the game always important, but let's just talk about the on-court side of the game real quick, because always, I know coaches, teams, once they experience success, you always want more, right? You always want to take that next step. And yeah, going all the way to Brookfield was a great season last year, but you definitely want to build from that. It's a good foundation season. So on-court stuff, what are the check marks, I guess, that need to happen, or what are the things that you need to see happen improvement wise to take that next step in this team?
Yeah, we need to take better care of the basketball. We turned the ball over quite a bit last year in crucial times, and our conditioning needed to be better this year. You know, some of our players played a lot of minutes last year, and down the stretch in games, we saw ourselves try to take breaks at the wrong time that cost us. So this year, we're really just focusing on our execution, valuing the basketball more, and we're doing a lot of conditioning. You know, we didn't condition as much last year, and that's on me. But this year, we're doing a lot of conditioning to make sure that we can finish games. I think that's the main thing we're focusing on, is just finishing. We know what our girls are capable of when they're fresh. It's when we're tired and we're in a battle, who's going to step up and still be able to finish.
Coach, before we let you go, I want to give you a chance for a little bit of shameless self-promotion. And I mean, if returning all those girls from a year ago, paired with the great schedule that you guys have, isn't enough to draw the Irish community, go ahead and tell the Ursuline Irish faithful why it's going to be so important to come out and support this team this year, and why they're going to be worth the price of admission.
Well, I know we got a great fan base, and I think they're going to be excited about what we put on the floor this year with our returning players and with the newcomers. We're going to be a much improved team. I'm excited about the season because the girls are excited. You know, the energy is different. I think they believe we can make some noise this year, and since that's the case, I think we got a great shot at making something happen. So, all those Ursuline fans out there, we need you in the stands. We need your support, and these girls need your support. So come out and support us when the season starts. Thanks.
We'll definitely be there to support you as well, Coach. You can catch some Ursuline Irish girls basketball games on ysnlive.com this season for absolutely free of charge. Thank you to all of our wonderful sponsors. This has been another edition of Ursuline Girls Basketball Coaches Corner with Bernard Scott.
That was Bernard Scott from Ursuline. We've been a little bit over 2 o'clock today, but that's okay. You know, just getting you closer to the power hour from 3 to 4, which will be the next show on your docket today. We'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 2. Carrie Palermo will be joining us live to preview the Mooney boys basketball season 145. We'll also play a couple on the other end as well to get you ready for this season. Tomorrow from 1 to 2, join us on Running Point. That was today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Once again, Running Point proudly brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet.